Okay, the first thing today is to silent read for 10 minutes. So make sure all of your books are out and you're silent reading. So please pause the video and read for 10 minutes. All right. Our goal today is to close read chapter 5 and um, and last night you read chapter 6 and then so that's our main goal, close reading chapter 5. All right, make sure you turn in your homework from last night. So I checked in Google Classroom and very few people turned it in. It's going to count like a quiz grade. It's going to be in the grade book like right when I come back. It means you can have a 0 on that assignment, which means it'll count like a 0 on a quiz grade. So you better get that done before I come back. First thing is we're going to close read chapter 5. So head over to Google Classroom. And when you get there, you're going to see this thing that says chapter 5 close reading. Please go ahead and open it. And take a moment and pause the video right now while everybody loads this document. All right, so we're going to look at some key parts of this chapter. And we know that in chapter 6, I'm not going to do too much review because that was your responsibility to read chapter 6. But they continue to play their Boo Radley game. And at a certain point, Ms. Motti says that Scout is just being morbid. So one of the things you and your partner are going to need to discuss is, why does Ms. Motti say she's being morbid? Number one, you're going to probably need to look up what morbid means. And you need to think about, how does Ms. Motti feel about the Radleys? What's going on right now in the story that would make her say that Scout is morbid? You may want to pause the video right now and hand out books, because this is on the page 57. So pause the video until you and your partner have had a chance to look at page 57, look at morbid, and decide what Ms. Motti means. So pause now. All right, on page 58, so moving on to the next question. Page 58, it says, what does it mean when it says the best defense was a spirited offense? This refers to a new character we meet in this chapter named Uncle Jack. And Uncle Jack seems to have like this prior history with Ms. Motti. Spirited means with lots of energy. So when we say the best defense was a spirited offense, means an energetic offense. So why does she say that? You can think about, what is Ms. Motti and Uncle Jack's relationship like? How do they treat each other? What does it mean on page 58 when it says he was trying to get Ms. Motti's goat? What does it mean when we say that? And it's not how you guys usually use the word goat. So think about the relationship, and why would she have to have a spirited offense to combat Uncle Jack? Pause the video and discuss that. Okay, look at the top of page 61. On the top, Scout says that Atticus doesn't ever do anything to Jem and me that he don't do in the yard. How is this statement an example of the golden rule? So Scout is, referring to that there's nothing he would do inside the house that he wouldn't do out in front of everybody. On page 61, you can think about how Ms. Motti says that sometimes people do things inside that no one ever knows about. But, Atticus doesn't do that. He's not that kind of person. So you and your partner right now, what does it mean? What does Scout mean? And how is that an example of the golden rule? That Atticus doesn't do anything that he wouldn't do out in the yard. Pause the video now. Finally, another analysis of the golden rule. So Atticus tells the kids, I'm going to tell you something and tell you one time. Stop tormenting that man, says Atticus to the kids. What does this statement show about Atticus's belief in the golden rule? So use these sentences below to explain how that's an example of the golden rule. Pause the video now. All right, you should be done with this assignment. You should click the turn in button either on this document or on Google Classroom. Okay, so now we've read chapter 5. Chapter 6 was for homework. And in order to get through the book, we need to skip two chapters. So we're going to skip chapter 7 and chapter 8. So let me tell you what happens in chapter 7 and chapter 8. Okay, so we remember that Jem lost his pants when going over to the Radley house. But a few days later, after school began, Jem tells Scout that he found his pants mysteriously mended and hung neatly over the fence. And when they came home from school that day, they found another present hidden in the knot hole in the tree, and it was a ball of gray twine. They leave it there for a few days, but no one takes it, so they claim it for their own. Unsurprisingly, Scout is as unhappy in second grade as she was in first grade. Wow, by chapter 9, we're now on to the next grade. But Jem promises her that school gets better the farther along one goes. Late that fall, another present appears in the knot hole in the tree. Two figures carved in soap that look just like Scout and Jem. The figures are followed in turn by chewing gum, a spelling bee medal, and an old pocket watch. The next day, Jem and Scout find that the knot hole has been filled with cement. When Jem asks Mr. Radley, that's Nathan Radley, Boo's brother, about the knot hole, the following day, Mr. Radley replies that he plugged the knot hole because the tree is dying. For the first time in years, this is chapter 8, Maycomb endures a real winter. There's even light snowfall, and an event rare enough for school to be closed. Jem and Scout haul as much snow as they could from Miss Maudie's yard to their own. Since there's not enough snow to make a real snowman, they build a small figure out of dirt and cover it with snow. And they make it look like their neighbor, Mr. Avery, an unpleasant man who lives down the street. The figure's likeness to Mr. Avery is so strong that Atticus demands that they disguise it. Jim places Miss Maudie's sun hat on its head and sticks her hedge clippers in its hands, much to her chagrin. That means much to her dislike. That night, Atticus wakes up Scout and puts on her bathrobe and coat and goes outside with her and Jim. Miss Maudie's house is on fire. The neighbors help save her furniture, and the fire truck arrives in time to stop the fire from spreading to other houses. But Miss Maudie's house burns to the ground. In the confusion, someone drapes a blanket over Scout. This is kind of creepy, this part. When Atticus later asks her about it, she has no idea who put it over her. Jem realizes that Boo Radley put the blanket on Scout, and he reveals the whole story of the knothole, the presents, and the mended pants to Atticus. Atticus tells them to keep it to themselves, and Scout, realizing that Boo was just behind her, nearly throws up. Okay, so that takes us through chapter 8. And then you're going to head over here to the blog and click on this link right here, and that will start chapter 9. Tonight there is no reading homework, and we will finish chapter 9 tomorrow in class together.